We're in Austria. Wir sind pünktlich. Pünktlich wie die Uhr.
Okay, I think it's time. We are like 2 minutes late, so that's perfect for us in Austria. And it's time for our closing session, the panel discussion with our 4 great speakers. Mrs. Let's have one last big applause for Susie Sorova, our Mrs. Great Scrum Master. The Mr. His heart is really bleeding for the Agile, Alistair Coburn. Mr. Petri Hairamo, I'm sorry, I loved your talk so I forgot your name, but he's the one who really keeps the flow in the teams going. Also applause please. And the one Mr. who just want to make it bigger and scale it as big as possible, Wolfgang Richter. So, let's start the questions. So, were there some things you didn't understand, or you think, okay, this whole Agile thing won't work anyway?
Someone has a question? I have the microphone.
If you don't ask anything, we start singing.
You also were members of and participants of this Congress. What has changed in your mind and your brain? What has been changed by this Congress?
That's a good one. I want to know that too. So.
What changed for myself is that I learned something about myself again. I learned something about some small failures which I experienced before, and I've been trying to help companies, and for any reason I was not able to do that. And it was during this morning when he introduced the third level of Shuhari, which was Kokoro, thank you. I knew it started as Ko back then, I forgot it. So Kokoro. So that was my kind of eye-opening thing, and thank you for that.
Mine was when Philip did the opening exercises. I love embarrassing men. That guy looks so confident, right? He's like dancing in front of everybody. And I say, thank you, you had a good idea. He dies, right? Thank you, you had such a good idea. I really learned from that. Look at him, watch him melt now. It's really fun. Let's keep the spotlight on him. I haven't seen it done at the beginning of a conference. I've seen it done some other places, but things just land, right? They land at the time that they land. And I had been talking with my friend Jerry Devernier in Paris about the solutions-focused stuff and what he's doing with it and so on. But when he did it, it integrated a bunch of things, and as you saw, I changed my presentation right there. And just seconds ago, I had a discussion with Andreas, who's doing the new leadership stuff. And his questions are very similar to my guest leadership, right? So I said, oh, okay, there's several people on the trail of this. So those two things shifted stuff for me. Thank you.
I may not be because of the past history and experience, I might not be the core audience of conferences in general. But there's two things that I'd like to highlight as an answer since you asked. One of them was looking at other people perform, experienced Scrum in Agile people. There's always small ideas and small refinements of ways in which I could explain things or refine small details. Adding on, I've been aware of the Shuhari, for example, but some of the things that Alistair was saying, for example, refine some of the ideas. He gave me new words or new ideas on top of that. And the second one is sort of an internal journey thing. When I was preparing for my presentation, I needed to, of course, work on the idea. How do I present the ideas I have in my head? And I did, during that process, receive and get some ideas how to visualize things and learn new ways of expressing the ideas I had. So maybe So learning, that's something as an advice, general advice, not asked for, but anyway, general advice is try to get into opportunities where you actually have to express your ideas. Try to condense into something that you can communicate to others. It's a massively great experience. It pushes you through sometimes painful processes because it's not easy to prepare for a good talk. But coming out of that, you come up with it may not work the way you expected it to, and so on. But you learn from that process itself more so than the actual presentation.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned already one of the highlights for me in the morning. I mean, the guy who wrote this book who really inspired me to continue my personal journey, so this is my personal statement. And if I change the hat now to one of the organizers, it was really amazing for me to see. I mean, this is the very first Agile Austria conference. And it's not that one company was in charge of that or something. It was really something like a self-organized event. Everything ran so smoothly over those 2 days, and I got only positive feedback so far. I hope that's that stays until the end of the conference. And actually, this is how I define success. I mean, if I don't need to intervene too much, if there are no real escalations or something, and if there's customer satisfaction, and not only customer satisfaction, but also staff satisfaction, then I see this really as a success. And that's what changed probably a little bit of my personal view on such an event. Until now, I was usually speaker, participant, something like that. Now as an organizer, I see it can happen. It can be self-organized, it can run smoothly, and probably can continue.
Okay, thank you. The next question. Yes?
Just a general question. So I think most of our companies are getting more agile, so we try to set up Scrum or some agile tools to get the company working better. My question is, how do you see all these agile methods in around 10 years in medium to big corporations?
So I've been essentially an agile trainer and coach for about 10 years. And I've seen a massive change in the time. So when I started training, there were very few people doing it. It was a new thing. It was definitely not mainstream. Having 160 people in a conference would be considered a big success back at the time, even in larger cities. And we have 160 people in this or something like that. In this event, more than that, close to 200. And it's in this, it's in crowds, which is not necessarily. I don't know how many people you attract from Vienna, for example. It's a big local community. This many people in 10 years ago would have been just unimaginable. And there's how many companies are trying to do and succeeding even in Agile. It's massive change. So if I think that, and take an extension of your question, like what will be the next 10 years? If we have a similar kind of a change in the next 10 years, there'll be no waterfall. Okay, I'm not saying that's an entirely bad thing or anything like that, but I can't even imagine what it would be. So I don't know if that answered your question, but I see a massive change.
I've never been able to predict even 3 years into the future. So you ask me what's going to be 10 years, I have no idea. 2.5 is okay. Everything's the same. Everything's the same. But if you look at my investing in the stock market, you understand how bad I am at predicting the future. For example, when Bob Martin said, I want to have a meeting and write a manifesto, I thought, manifesto writing is stupid, I don't want to write a manifesto. So don't trust any of my answers about the future is what I have to say, right? So someone say, what's going to be after Agile? I go, I don't know. You can't ask me, I made Agile. So you have to ask somebody who hates Agile. Because those are the people who are going to make the thing that's after Agile. Don't ask me. So.
I don't know the future either, but I see a strong trend into simplification of those ideas. I have a feeling that 8 years ago when I started to teach the first Scrum classes myself, then it was more, when you Google it up, it was more about practices, more complex. The Scrum Guide at that time been like bigger document, and now it's getting smaller and smaller and smaller and more simplified. So, and you can see it in Alistair's 4 segments of agility. And there is a Josh Kirsky with his modern agile, again those 4 segments. And after all, I think we simplified the Scrum Guide from those 16 pages which we have now to 5 and 1 eventually.
2 words. We can condense it into 2 words.
Yeah, maybe, who knows? 1, right?
Yeah, just a short statement of that probably. Predicting the future, yeah, sure. We can't do it probably. And what I see as a chance and a risk at the currently, and if I look back like it did for the last 10, 15, 20 years, I don't know, people are changing things constantly, to the better or to the worse. What will win in the future, I don't know. I hope to change it to the better will win. That's all I can say to that.
Okay, next question. Elsie, you're burning for questions, right? They should shoot at you, right? Yeah.
What is the one most important thing we should keep in mind after this conference, or we should maybe try?
The most important thing we should keep in mind.
Out of the conference. Out of what? Out of the conference.
Exactly.
That's the one thing I already answered what I got out of the conference. What did you get out of the conference?
I mean, in your opinion, what's the most important thing?
I already talked for an hour on that. So did Susie. Yeah, I'm kind of grumbly, like, you know, I drank coffee, I'm sitting here, ask me a question. And the people who come tomorrow get a whole day of this, and those who come to the advanced class get 2 days of this.
I'd say keep learning.
Come next year to Agile Austria.
I don't know if it's from the conference or not. The hardest thing is to get organizations to start changing anything. And people like me who've been around for a long time, like, we'll just give anything just to have organizations change anything. Once people start changing and you get in the habit of changing, you can change left, you can change right, you can pick up this, you can pick up that, you can steer. But most organizations won't change anything. So if I have one request, just start changing stuff and get in that habit. And then after that, follow your nose. So I could come up with one thing. It's not what I got from the conference, but if there's one piece of advice, it's that. Yeah?
Yeah, one thing came to my mind. What you should keep in mind after the conference, you are not alone.
Perfect. The next question. I hope it's a hard one, because Alistair is really burning for something he can shoot back, you know?
I hope so. No, I want to ask you if a company's CEO comes to you and says, "Oh, I have heard about this cool thing, Agile. Can you teach it to me, or can you bring it to me?" What do you tell them, actually? If you got such a simple or hard question.
Well, that's interesting, because that question wasn't what I expected you to say. So I'll answer the one I expected you to say and the one you did ask. Because what you said is, if a CEO says, can you bring it? I go, I'm only one person, right? If your company's like 50 people, I can do something. If your company's like 5,000 to 10,000 people, I can't do anything, right? But people, this did happen, so it's a true story. I got in an elevator with an exec, and he said, "So this Agile thing, what is it?" And I said, "Early delivery of business value." I said, "Well, can't argue with that. What else?" I said, "Reduced bureaucracy." He said, "Sounds good." The door opened and he got out. So I really did do the elevator talk. And so for me, talking to the CEO, early delivery of business value with reduced bureaucracy is a pretty good sum up. And above, 50 people company or 100 max, then it's not for me. You know what you guys want to see? Just curious, right? So you're trapped in an elevator for about, 7 or 12 seconds with an exec. And he says, "What's this Agile thing? I'm looking at you. Looking at you." Looking at you.
At me?
No, I look at you. I already looked at you enough. No, just for you three, right? You're trapped in an elevator for like an entire 7 to 12 seconds. I was on the 3rd floor. First floor to 0 to 3, right? And so what is this Agile anyway? Do any of you guys have a way?
This is where it's, because I think coming forward with this situation, you made a scenario. Sometimes I might just freeze up. I'm not an extrovert, I'm introvert. So therefore coming up with fast responses and thinking on the spot is sometimes really difficult. So maybe I should rehearse so I can be prepared. But I find that these conversations tend to be so context specific. I maybe ask why you're interested? What's your pain point that you're trying to solve with Agile? Or with this idea that makes you attracted to this question, why do you pose this question? Because there's lots of different reasons why they might be interested in that. They might be concerned about revenue. They might be concerned with the speed at which it can actually change, or they might be concerned with innovation, or maybe employee satisfaction. And each of those questions might have an entirely different answer. And you might apply and approach the problem in some different ways. And it might not even be that Agile is a good solution for that, and good answer. There might be non-Agile answers. It might be much better than an Agile answer. So, this is a really tough question. You get a consultant answer to that. So, it depends.
So in the elevator first, I was thinking about what would be my answer, and I think the answer would be that Agile is a way how to achieve your goals and make your company successful in short time. And then I would see what happened, and if they start to be interested, I might say something else or not. It would be concerning the value, it might be concerning the collaboration or teams, but I most likely would skip because people don't understand the collaboration anyway. So it's hard to speak about it. And I was also thinking about the original questions. So what do I say to the CEO who calls me into the meeting or something? What I usually do, I learn not to tell them anything, I just ask a question back. Like, why do you want to implement Agile? What's your goals? What's your struggle with now? And I learned that my best client for Agile transformation is a company which is struggling, which is having some significant pain. Because unless you have that pain, you never change. So you say yeah, that's great. Oh, do we really have to do this? What if we skip it? Yeah, then skip it. And don't even start. So I'm looking for companies who have pain. I'm looking for companies who try to solve it by themselves and failed. And they are ready usually for that Agile journey.
I just thought the whole time, should I give you the answer I have in my mind or shouldn't I give it? I have to, sorry. You asked if you're trapped in an elevator, what would be your answer? If somebody asked me such a question, I would call this person nuts because I have different problems now, so I'm not thinking about that. So that was first coming to my mind. Sorry. On the other hand, if it's only for 7 to 12 seconds, we will get out the elevator before the question will be answered. So this was my second thing that came to my mind. But now coming to the point, probably, I would say a short statement to that for me, Aubrey, is enjoy what you're doing and make it enjoyable for your people. That's all I would say to that, probably.
Perfect. So the next question.
Wolfgang told us in the morning what was his moment when he got hooked on the whole Agile movement. So I'd like to hear from the other three, when was your moment? What did you get hooked? What did you get hooked into the Agile movement? Wolfgang told his story. Yeah, Wolfgang told his story how he was inspired by your book. So what was your inspiration?
So before I got Agile, this was before the end, sort of the fall of 2005. My job was to make waterfall work. So I was a process improvement manager in an organization, consulting organization. So I'd spent a few years in that role, refining the work, trying to make the materials and the guidelines that we had for traditional development better. And there were a few things in that process that sort of raised questions. And we had made sacrifices to the original principles of waterfall idea. Plan first and then implement. Because we had found out that when we implemented, like we had a problem with the design documentation. We made a design, well the people made a design, I didn't do it much, but the people made a design and then they started implementing and then they never made the thing they designed. And we just couldn't find a way around that. We had to conclude that there's some magic that happens when people are actually implementing stuff that you can't entirely predict up front. So even within our waterfall framework and the guidelines, what we said is just do enough thinking that you have an idea of what you want to do and you can communicate it to someone. Back in the days we said team lead because we used the team lead metaphor and the role, but you can explain to the team lead what you want to do and then implement and then document what you made. So that was, you can see, that's a sacrifice to the principles of traditional development, but it made things work. And that kind of prepared me, so when during 2005, I started looking for additional ideas, how can we further improve the way we work, I came across, finally, read the book, Extreme Program Explained, and that sort of connected the dots that I had been brewing up before. And then it was like a light turned on. Whoa, now I get it. Now I know how this actually can work, and it was a one-way street. So I kind of pushed back all the traditional stuff. I had to let it exist. I had to have, I allowed people to improve it in the ways that they think. I thought that was worthless, but they liked to do it, so keep doing. I didn't want to get involved with it. And I started just ramping up as much as I could and get people engaged with the Agile ideas in the organization, get practice with the techniques and use them in projects. And within a year, we got approved as a formal methodology. And I've been on that road ever since. So that was my moment, which connected me to this movement.
That's a difficult question for me because I always say I just happened to be at the right time, right place. I was alone there from the Czech Republic. I've been in the US for 7 months in one of our customers, and they switched to Scrum. And I didn't like it much, but I didn't really care about it much. I just went along. And then when I got back to Prague, they asked me, hey, we would like to collaborate with you. So we built 2 teams, 10 people each. And you guys, you have to use Scrum now, because we are running Scrum. So I said, okay. And my manager said, so you have to be a Scrum Master. You're the only one who has an experience with Agile and Scrum here. So you have to start it. And I was like saying, no, I don't want to. I want to still be a developer. Can I keep my chair and return back after 3 months? I promise I'll teach them what I know, but I want to go back. And actually, he said okay, keep your chair, that's fine, just start it, it's gonna be okay, you can return, always you can return back. And actually, I never returned back. And I stopped coding at that time. I kind of realized I can change people's lives. I can make them more happier, I can make them more productive, I can make them more successful, I can make them more smiling. And that gives me an energy back. So that's the beginning of my journey. But I would never choose it myself. So I would like to thank to those people who bring me on this journey at the very beginning and push me because they see it somewhere in myself, I guess.
So something to add to the question in some sense, because I realized on your speech, the initial thing that I was curious about was of course process, because I'm sort of intuitive, introvert kind of person. So ideas and concepts are very exciting to me in many ways. So that was part of it. But the real thing that made me most convinced that Agile was worth doing was because I saw the change in people's lives in those projects. So there were people who said they were bored with their jobs before they started the experiment, the Scrum project, and now they were all excited. And that was universal. Pretty much everybody who was involved in the experiments we ran got excited with the things and started liking their jobs better. And that was the thing that most important to me ultimately in all this stuff.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that question, do I? I was hired in 1991. I was hired by the IBM Consulting Group to create a process and methodology for Smalltalk and C++ projects. I knew nothing about methodology at the time. And my boss said, we don't have any prior products or competing ideas in the space. So how about you just go and interview some teams and find out what they like and what they don't like and just write it down. So I said, okay. So she gave me unlimited airplane tickets and I started flying around the world interviewing project teams. And I just wrote down whatever they said. And what they said looks a lot like, Heart of Agile or Crystal Clear or something like that. But there was one, and so I just was following the thread, right? There wasn't any moment where anything was, you just go, I can't make sense of this, I can't make sense of it. The projects that were following processes were not delivering software, to the level of 100%, they just weren't. The ones that were delivering software weren't doing anything that was written in any book. You couldn't find it. So it was a mystery. What are these people doing? Why? And I started that in 91, 92, and continued that up till around 1998 when it started to make sense and I started finally to write the things that that are in all my books. But there was one project in particular that was definitely a turning point for me. It was a project in Canada, and so they said, hey, we have this project, and I flew up to Toronto to interview them, and they said, we have 24 people, and they started describing everything they were doing, and I was taking notes, and I'd seen enough projects, I said, this thing is dead meat, I don't know why I flew here, right? This is obviously a dead project, there's nothing can happen out of here. And the guy said, and so they were working in 4-month increments, right? And at the end of the first 4 months, we had a dispirited team, bad architecture, nothing to deploy. It was really bad and sucky and everything bad. And I wrote this down and I go, yeah, I knew that. Why am I even sitting here? And then he said the most amazing thing that I've ever heard anywhere. He goes, so what we did was we replaced 23 of the 24 programmers. We changed our management structure. We got just-in-time training on object-oriented stuff. Thingy, stuff. And I about dropped my pencil, right? I went, what? Isn't that called just go home and start over and rebuild? No, he says, no, we still had the same mission. We had some of the same managers. And we just realized that we were going about it wrong. And so we just swapped out the team. And I said, but wasn't that bad for the people? Can you imagine being told you're not good enough? All 23 of you are not good enough. He said no, they were happy to go back and where they were experts. They had been expert mainframe C programmers and now they were junior lousy workstation C++ programmers and they didn't like it. So they were very happy to go back to a place where they were expert again. But now we knew a little bit better what we were looking for. We got 23 people, we got just-in-time training. And then we did 4 months later, we had now the basic architecture, we found the team leads. So we regrouped again and we changed the management structure again, we changed the learning, we changed this, we changed that, we changed this, we changed that, changed assignments, and we went on again. And I was like, what? I mean, literally, I'd never in the literature, nowhere. And these guys and then they said, well, we're on the fourth round now, we're ahead of schedule, we have 90% internal reuse, we've got a tight architecture, motivated team and stuff. And my eyes were big like this. And that interview is the foundation of everything I've ever done since then. And the project that I was on in 94, 95 had the exact same trajectory. I called it the trajectory of a normal project. A normal project or a good project, you crash and burn at the beginning, and then you reassemble and think about it, and you come up and then you take off. And my publisher wouldn't let me call that a good project. He said, it's not a good project, it's a bad project. Oh, that's a good project. No, that's a good project. You crash early, then you have plenty of time to rebuild, and then you come back out again. Like, that's great. So that's what happened on my first project. Was 3 months later we had dispirited team, bad architect. But it was small talk. We brought in a new small talk expert, and I remember this. We came in the evening to show him what his new life was going to be like. And I have to tell you, it was the first time I looked at that code. I was viscerally ill, sick to my stomach, looking at that code. I didn't know that code could make you throw up. I was seriously at the, losing my lunch at the looking at the code stuff. And the guy said, is this what I have to work with? And we said, your job is to make sure they don't write like this anymore. Right? So we did that, right? So crash and burn and come up and so on. But a thing that was a moment for me was what the guy said, talk about humility, right? We screwed up. We have the same mission. We have to keep going, and we're changing everything. I went, wow, that guy was an inspiration for me. So that's the thing. Oh, and by the way, when I did my PhD dissertation, they knew everything in my dissertation except this. It had never occurred to any of the professors that you could change the process within the project. They had the idea, as I did, that a methodology would be one-off for each project, but the concept that you could literally change everything about the process inside of the project with these milestone retrospectives, that was a brand new one for them. And those lucky few who come to my workshop tomorrow, we will get to practice this. Nothing like an end.
You finished? Okay, I think we have here the next question.
You said, Susie, that in the moment in which your customer says he has a pain and so, then it's the moment that they see that they need a change. Which are your tricks as an expert to bring people a bit outside their comfort zone so that the change starts?
Well, one of those tricks is to have a colorful hair. When they survive this, how I look like, they usually survive my style. Usually, not always. So the story said that I did once, first time in my independent life, right, hired for the bank, and I passed through a series of interviews, and then that person who's been hiring me have a conversation with me and said the only thing we haven't been really sure about and we've been really discussing is if we can hire somebody with a blue hair. And I look at him like this, it's okay, so, because I still didn't know the result, right? And he's we said we'll see how it goes, right? We just see what happens if we hire somebody like that. So that was a good, actually, that they make it visible for me, and then I share it a couple of times, and I have another story about that one of my clients I've been working with them for a year to help them to transform the organization into large Scrum, etc. And the vice president of that thing had been transforming the last kind of section of the organization. And he said that's the most conservative section. We didn't really want to transform it at the beginning, but we have to because now we learn how is it great here, so we just have to make it consistent. And what they did, we've been just actually about to start in the middle of a day. I've been having some coaching with some other teams, and they call me out of the meeting, which was kind of weird, right? So they sent an assistant actually to call me out of the meetings and tell that the manager is waiting for me. I was that's weird in this organization. So I came there, entered the door, and got completely frozen. There have been 4 guys, including the vice president, with colorful hair, and they've got those hairs like that standing, and they bought those one-day party sprays, and the assistant was helping them to make that vision, and they said how do you like it? Are we finally agile enough? So it's oh wow, you're cool really. And then we all went out to do the kind of kickoff, as they officially call it, right? So they've been standing there together with me and having that speech that, it's going to be a change and we're going to look differently and behave differently, and they really mean it, and it was great. I still have pictures from that. It was like a cool experience for me. So.
Was that a question? For everyone, one question. More tricks.
I don't have colorful hair. I don't have much hair at all. I don't try to convince people. I try not to. I sometimes come across, because I'm passionate about things, so that may come across that way. But I try not to convince people. But if I can give people ideas that they like, and then they get engaged with those, and then they like to try them out, I think that's a much better way. Because every time I try to convince someone to do something else, what I usually end up getting is resistance. So maybe that's a sort of a, I don't know, it's a Zen-like thing or other, but I let people do whatever they like, apart from my daughter and my son, because being a parent, we don't behave necessarily always in the smart ways.
Is there tricks to bring them a bit in this uncomfortable zone?
I actually try to do the other way. I try to bring him into a comfortable zone. And usually if I go coaching somewhere, okay, so I usually get invited somewhere, so there's already entry pass I have, so that's a benefit to some other circumstances. But quite often I do get invited to organizations where the team didn't invite me. It was the manager who invited, or HR or something like that. And I usually start by saying, I don't have an agenda. I don't have any personal goal out of this meeting. I'm here merely for you. If you want to go, if you don't think that there's nothing you want to talk with me about anything, I'm perfectly fine letting you go. I don't have to keep you hostage here. But I do know about Agile. If you're curious about that, then what would you want us to talk about? So I created a safe environment for that. And then I hope that it creates curiosity. And then through the conversations, then we can engage, and then they get interested and they start trying things out. I hope. Sometimes it does happen more effectively, sometimes it doesn't. But I'm not responsible for their work. They are responsible for their own work and how to do it best. So I hope that gives you some ideas.
From a tool perspective, I love games. So I really having people in a room and going away from concrete problems to an abstract space where they can interact with each other and playing a game and learn from that is something I really love to use. More from a theoretical perspective, I mean, I just thought about all the things I learned over the last 20, 30 years now. And there were two things. When I was younger, actually, I was enjoying movies around Kung Fu, etc., martial arts, like Jackie Chan in the younger years, Bruce Lee, etc. And I mean, if you learn a little bit about these martial arts in the background, like Kung Fu and Shaolin Kung Fu, etc., it's not about your own energy, it's about the energy of your opponent, right? And later on, I started also learning something about NLP, neuro-lingual programming, etc. And if you combine all these things together, then you can come up one day, sometimes, with mechanics, with techniques that you use the energy of the people. So probably something similar you do. I don't try to convince them to come out of their comfort, but I use what's there already and take the next step. And also use these other mechanics you can use if you're familiar with not the manipulation part of NLP, but the other one, what communication is about, things like that. And let people learn by themselves. So I'm not telling them, so I'm not consulting them, but I'm trying to put the seed in there, let it grow, and figure it out themselves. Maybe I do something that influences them to come up with an idea or something like that. And if that doesn't work, conflicts. I really use conflicts, yes. If everything is going too smoothly, I mean, it was about, I don't know, how long was this ago? 7, 8 years ago. It was a small company here in this region. I was invited to, and they wanted to improve Scrum or improve Agile, something like that. I can't remember exactly what the real goal was, but they wanted to become better. And when I was there, people always agreed. It was so boring. It was really, I was sitting there and we talked about something. Is this a good idea? Yeah, sure, done. Okay, what next? Don't know. Okay, this, that. Agreed? Yes. Nothing moved forward. It was just standing at the same point all the time. Nothing happened. And what I really did there was creating conflicts, so that they started talking to each other, debating, discussing. And of course, not conflicts like hitting each other, I mean, don't get me wrong, but like getting them up to speed a little bit more. And from there on, they had to come out of the comfort zone, because the comfort zone was, we agree to each other, we are friends, we are always on the happy path, but there was no path anymore. So getting them out of this comfort zone, talking to each other, was something I did in this specific situation, for example.
I have one more note again. So you inspired me with the neurolinguistic thing. So I did ORSC, which is Organizational System Relationship Coaching, and I use it a lot. And one of those things is reveal the system. So show them who they are, show them how they react in certain situations, and make it visible for them. And then you don't have to do anything. When they see it, they change by themselves. So I use some of those games or coaching kind of workshops to really reveal them how they behave in certain situations. For example, how they are not able to agree on even a tiny single thing. And then I thought, "Hi, so are you happy with that? What do you want to do with it? And let's see what happens."
So while these guys were talking, I came up with two. One is a CTO of a company in Australia called realestateassociates.com. And they're the Southern Hemisphere version of Spotify, but Henrik Knieberg hasn't visited them yet, so we don't have the REA model, we still have the Spotify model. This guy, Nigel, I interviewed him in 2012, and I said, "I can't believe the way you've changed the organization in just 2 years. That's incredible. Like, how did you do that?" He said, "Well, when anybody asked for anything, I just said yes." So what do they ask for? "Hey, can we have this new software?" "Sure." "Hey, can we get some sofas here to sit around?" "Yes." "Can we take the walls down?" "Yes." "Can we sit together?" "Yes." "Can we install a continuous build machine?" "Yes." "Can we learn how to put, configure servers on Amazon automatically?" "Yes." "Can we have access to the customers?" "Yes." It didn't matter what they said, he said yes. But the point is, what I was saying to this person over here is they got moving. Once they got moving, they found, hey, he just says yes, ask for stuff. What do you really want? Right? So then they just started trying, but they just tried. They're loyal employees. They're not just up for a money grab. They want things to go better. So they're like, pretty soon they were changing so much that they got ahead of, of everybody. So there's one, right? If you're the boss, just say yes. There was another guy who had guest leadership, in a small company, like about 10 or 12 people. But I said, how do you have guest leadership through everywhere? Like, no matter how junior, no matter what department, HR, finance, everybody here just does this guest leadership thing. He said, when we started to grow, I just made sure I wasn't around. And they had to do stuff. And when they come back, I go, oh, that's working, cool. The other one, though, that's a bit more explicit, I've used a few times, and someone said, hey, Alistair, we have an hour before your first appointment. Can you just talk to the people? I go, okay, sure. So I don't like to talk to people for an hour. So I said, look at the people. I said, hey, guys, get a bunch of sticky notes, like yellow ones, and on them write everything you've ever seen on any project that you liked, and you would like to see it show up here again. Write it on a sticky note. We're like, okay. Now, everything that, when you've been on a project ever before that you didn't like, and you want to make sure it doesn't show up here again, let's get some red sticky notes and put it up there. Up they go. Now, on this last wall, look at the things that you want to never show up here. If you have an idea what can be done to prevent that from showing up here, put it on these cards over here. Okay? So now you have a list of action items. And now you get these people moving, right? So now you say, okay, now dot vote, sequence, anybody want to take a partial ownership over this, tag team this, da da da, you know, it's all usual. But what would you like, what have you seen that you want to have here? Then what have you seen that you don't want to have here? And then what are your ideas for improving things? People have lots of ideas, lots of ideas. Then you just have to say yes, 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 yes. Then people start moving. More than that, I'm with Petri. I don't try to change anybody's mind. I have a terrible track record of ever changing anybody's mind. At the end of a successful 2-year project, in the mid-90s, we did you know, some agile type stuff. Incremental, iterative, customer focused, all that stuff. And the project said at the end, well, we delivered, even though we did all of that funny, incremental, iterative, customer-focused stuff that you were trying. Despite the fact that we were doing all that funny stuff you were trying, we delivered anyway. So after 2 years of literally living in a project, he totally was not convinced at all. So I don't try to convince people, but those 2 things I told you about I have seen.
So change is hard. Organisational change is sometimes even harder, and there's so many different facets of change that go on. Sometimes when you're going through that change and when you're trying to help move some of those things along as coaches, it can feel like you're just being run over by that horde of orcs, like in Lord of the Rings. What are some of the things you've done when you've ever faced, if you've ever faced that scenario, that keep you charged up, positive mindset, energized, when everything around you is just kind of sucking the life out of you?
I may not be able to answer this one because I buy a plane ticket. But this man has an.
Because it was 2 weeks ago or so. Actually, it was in Berlin. What I did there to charge myself up, true story, I rented a Porsche 911 and got on the German highway. Yeah, so raising my speed record. Really helps. I can recommend that if you want. I can give you the phone number for a Porsche drive.
I'd be curious to know what you do, because I might learn from that. It's really sometimes really difficult, and especially like at home. I find that like the hardest possible area of my life is trying to raise children and live with another person. Well, 3 other people, 2 of the 2 children and my wife. It's really hard. I try to come, in hard moments, I try to think why I did this. And so far, I've always found the reasons why I did this in the original place. That will pass. It has happened before, and just if I just keep going and trust this decision, despite the fact that it feels hard right now, it will come out right. The storm will pass, and there'll be calmer waters afterwards. So I suppose I know I'm better off for that.
Just want to add to my statement. I mean, I think that's for every person the same. If you have something you really like that can help you to overcome such low energy situations, I guess, and that's in my situation, it's covers. Yeah. That's why I mentioned that before.
Well, what I usually do, I go and talk to someone. Yeah, because I don't have any colleagues, an office full of colleagues anymore. We are all kind of working somewhere, and you can only call, which doesn't really work for me. So I try to go with any of my friends for a wine or coffee, or my husband sometimes, etc. And I just tell them what happened to me and how frustrating it was. And then actually, when I put it out, I usually, in the 3/4 of my speech, find another solution. What should I do with it? And even if I don't, I just say, okay, well, I'm good with it. I get it out of my head. I say it to someone, the real person. He listened to me, that's needed, right? They have to listen to me. My parents doesn't work because they kind of listen, but not really. I don't know why. But my husband works very well. My friends work very well, and you know that's important, right? And then it's gone, and you have a new energy. Try it again.
Okay, there was one question in the back.
I think I like what we're doing very much, that we're helping people, that we're enabling them, and I think a lot of people are happy not to be stuck, to continuously improve. But then again, there are the others who are like, how long, when is good enough? And I sometimes fear that while we are selling the high-performing team, while we are better than what you're having now, how can we take care, or how can we manage expectations of our clients that we will help some, but there might be others as well, and how can we make their lives better too?
I'm trying to understand the question. So the people who are happy with changing all the time, they're already taking care of the people who aren't happy with changing all the time. How do we take care of them? Is that the question?
Yes.
Yeah? Got it.
So I can start by setting up that I'm not happy changing all the time. I'm definitely not happy changing all the time. It's very energy consuming, it's very annoying, it's cognitively hard. I like to do things, the way I've done them before. It just happened to be in an agile environment, so I'm using the same ideas over and over. It's easier to tell others to change than to it to change. So I try to keep that in my mind, and appreciate the fact that usually people resist things that they care. Or that there's a reason why they are resisting things, because they care. So to people, like I've had in trainings many times, people who say, no one, especially public courses, no one comes there saying that, I don't trust this. They pay money to join up, so they usually are predisposed to liking what I say, or liking these ideas in the first place. But then sometimes private trainings, there are people who are more resistant. And I usually try to listen to why are they resistant. There's usually a concern that they have, that they don't know how this agile thing allows them to do it in a good way. They are resistant because they are passionate about something, and they are afraid of losing it. And usually what they are afraid of losing is a sensible thing, like architecture. A lot of, particularly more senior people, they are concerned about architecture, that what they do, it works now and it works in the future. And they don't see how they can do it in iterative and incremental fashion. And once we can discuss that we sometimes, within 2 days, the people transform from the resistant person to actual proponent. They actually start coming forward with ideas, we can do this. I've seen that happen several times. So the people that are hardest to connect to are the people who don't care. Who are quiet and silent, don't say anything. They just maybe nod or sometimes smile most of the time. You don't necessarily notice that they're not sort of connected. And those are the hardest to get access to. And what's either I just let them in. That's perfectly fine for me. I don't need to make them engaged. But sometimes if I do want to get them engaged, or sort of a standard tactic is I make people play games. That was something that often said. So games typically draw people out of those places into a safe environment to try something. It's an easy challenge. It's not related to work. It's safe. And usually those tend to draw people enough that we can start having conversations. Not guaranteed. So I'm not worried about the resistors. I'm worried about the passive, apathetic people. There's something wrong with their lives. And it's not their fault. It's somebody else's fault, but something in their life is not right. And it's kind of sad.
I think what came to my mind was a story about there was this Scrum gathering in where was it? In Paris actually. It was an open space session, and there was one guy actually from Prague, and he had this problem. There was one guy in his team. I mean, crazy structure, of course. He was the line manager and the Scrum Master, so we all know what that could mean. But there was one guy in his team, and he said he's the low performer. And they were close to firing this guy. And we had there was a group of 5 or 6 people all together sitting there, and by this discussion I gave the advice, have you ever talked to this guy really on a personal level? Have you ever tried to figure out what the root cause for his underperformance, whatever that means, is, or for his resistance to work with the team? And he said no. I mean, he didn't really know what the problem was. He just saw a guy not doing as the others. So he just compared the others, those guys in the team. And what he figured out then, he really had a one-to-one talk then on a personal level, like ORP or something. And what he figured out then is he just doesn't like what he needs to do. He doesn't want to be the best programmer in the world. He loves to be a tester. So from his skill set. And what they then did was just he moved to the other team because the other team lacked a tester. And there he became the high-performing tester once of a sudden. So what I really try to figure out first before I judge people or work against the resistance, I mean I can't do that anyway, is what is the root cause behind it? Is there a simple solution? Is there a simple step you need to take to overcome that? Do it. If the answer is whether it's just resistance for the sake of resistance, let people go. I don't want to waste my personal energy on that then. So these are the 2 extreme examples. The simple solution, if you can find the root cause, use it, use the information and change the structure probably or the situation. And the other way, if there is no viable or feasible solution or just too much investment required for that, yeah, let people go probably.
Well, I have this idealistic vision which says that everybody wants to be successful, everybody wants to be happy, and everybody is great at something. And our kind of role as Scrum Masters and leaders in the organization is to find out what's the each person's space. And that tester developer is just the classical case, right? At one point of my time, I've been a director of the whole engineering group, consisting of 100 people, and the HR director at the same moment. So I could pretty much, you would say, change anything, fire anyone, with the exception that our owners didn't want to fire anyone because those people are people, and they are here with us for some time, and they always come up with something. Did you try this? Or do you remember that guy has been good 3 years ago? So I learned that I can't really fire anyone despite on the positions which I got. So I was kind of pushed into a position where I need to work with those guys, because if I don't, they would eventually demotivate the rest of the people around me. And I learned, to my huge, huge surprise, that it's always possible to find a better space for that person and make him successful and happy at work. So as I said, I'm too idealistic maybe, but that's my experience.
Those are all good answers. I don't have anything to add to what they said. They kind of covered the space. So we'll pass on this one.
Okay, perfect. It's 7:30, so if there's not like a last question that is really burning, I would say a big applause for 4 main speakers. Hopefully you get all the answers you were looking for. Do you want to stay on the stage till the end, or? Well, it's now it's like a 3-hour stand-up comedy where you like have to be in the room, so it's fine. I think it's not so much we have to talk about, but still, it's always the thing like thinking about the good stuff. So let's ask you all, what have you learned? What have, like, these 2 days you have been here, like talking to people, having workshops, so was there something that inspired you? Something you want to like share with everybody? Okay, it's like, I think it's enough. This is enough talking and enough talking. So the thing you can do if you got inspired, if you want to like keep the drive going on, like here in Graz locally, we have the Scrum user group. So let's meet us at Meetup, so you get to know where we meet. The second thing is, if you're like more interested into the bigger things, also the less Austrian community is also a meetup. So please join if you're interested. If you want to like meet people who like think the same way. And of course, there is the IT community Styria. I'm blank, so Wolfgang, you need to help me out on that.
Yeah, Gerhard mentioned that already. It's a community of 12 companies, also contributing to the Agile movement. There's also the Digital Future Congress. I think you have it probably mentioned somewhere else. Yeah, it's a group of 12 companies. So we exchange information there. We have learning experiences, evening events, etc. And everybody who is in this community can join that. And if you from a company who wants to probably also be part of that, we are open for new members.
Perfect. And if you like go back on Monday, or maybe some of us need to go to work tomorrow, and you will notice it's the same work, it's the same behavior, it's the same thing we do every day, and we got like inspired from today. Well, here's the chance that you get inspired again. So if it gets boring in 3 months in your company, or at least your HR heart is beating and it's like, damn it, I want to do something. Well, tomorrow, again, you can have a day in the heart of Agile on the 11th and 12th of September, the Agile Prague. Yes. On the 13th and 14th of August, you have got the LESS conference in London. September. Sorry, yeah, September, right? Then the 30th of, help me. Thank you. If you get kicked out once of your like speech, you can forget yourself. It's the Scrum Group gathering in Dublin, and in November you've got a certified Agile leadership again with Susie Zorova. Yes, and in 2018, if you want to like think more open freely, there are the Freiräume in Graz, which are generally thinking about how future work will work, and that people get more the potential to like involve or think differently. It's also a recommendation. Yeah.
And the Digital Future Congress on which date now? I forgot it.
November 9th.
November 9th.
November 9th.
This is a free event and open for everyone.
Perfect. So there's actually just one last thing.
Okay. So that's for me and Gerhard and Andreas to say. Actually, I need to ask you guys. I mean, I enjoyed those 2 days very, very much. What about you?
Absolutely. So what I really enjoyed was the diversity, also about the talks. There were quite different talks, the topics were quite different. And I also enjoyed the talks to the people. And there were quite a lot of people that were not really IT near, so in the IT factories or companies. And it was quite interesting for me to talk to them.
Yeah, for me personally it was very inspiring, especially the feedback or the reactions I got from the audience, from persons out there in the networking talks. And again, personally for me, the Agile Austria 2018 became more and more concrete in my mind. So I think we should talk about this.
We should have a talk afterwards, but over a beer now. So, that's important. So if you're not from Austria, beer is the most important thing in Austria. I tell you. I take over now the rest of the thank you. So I go over to here. I mean, there were many people involved to make this happen. We already saw our sponsors. We are the organizers. But there are so many like volunteers. Thanks again, Philip, for the moderation. Roland took over the track hosting here, Katarina, etc., etc. I can't mention all the names, but all the people who made this happen, all the speakers, reviewers, submitters, staff, volunteers, who else was there? Yeah, of course, the Chamber of Commerce people, etc., etc. Thanks a lot, and thanks a lot for contributing to that. And thanks to you, participants, that you found your way down to Graz, if you're not from Graz, of course, and that you also made this a great event, made a great journey for 2 days and a lot of learning experience, I mean, also your questions are of course very important. You saw at the very beginning, we could have begun singing. This would be probably not have been the best end, I don't know. Well, I cannot sing a little bit, but I don't start now, don't worry. Now, your questions, your contribution is also very important, and thanks that you asked questions, thanks that you were in the room, and that you also gave your feedback to us. Like I said, the feedback is very important for us to make the decision whether it will follow. I think it's almost already clear there will be an Agile Austria 2018. We'll let you know what will be the content. And one request to you. If you're interested in certain topics, just let us know. You have the office address, office@agileaustria.org. Let us know what you want to hear and see next year, so that we can also integrate it into the program and invite people for that, or slightly change it, or whatever is required then. Just let us know, contribute to that. Maybe you want to become a speaker as well. Just send the submission then and probably be part from the other side of the stage. That's it, so, I guess. Did I miss something? No? Then thank you. Have a safe trip home. See you next year.